Hello and welcome to episode 30 of Healing Vibrations. This is the broadcast where we aim to change the perspective of illness to see it as a gift. And today I'm very excited to be joined by the wonderful Sam Warner, who I know through Toastmasters because she's an amazing speaker. And she's also, like many of us, I guess, in life, is working through challenges regarding illness and health. So Sam, welcome to Healing Vibrations. Sam is a communication specialist and her company is called Get Your Message Across. So welcome and tell us a little bit about what you do and also maybe some of the challenges that you've experienced. And is there a gift in all that?
Loaded questions.
Yeah. Lots of questions, yes. Maybe I should need to, yeah, anyway.
I'll try and remember them all.
So the first one is who you are and what you do.
I love it. So thanks for having me on the show to start with. I'm very grateful to be here. I have worked in corporate for 25 plus years, got sick of working in corporate and went alone in 2015 when I finally tore myself away from a wage check.
It's not an easy move to make, is it?
I know. Well, I've been running the business alongside my career and I realised that I didn't want to do my career. It didn't give me joy at all. I wanted to do things that filled my heart and made me feel good about myself, and I felt like I was supposed to be in service to others. So that's how it happened. Mm-hmm. The kind of things that I do, apart from very generic public speaking training, TEDx coaching, that kind of stuff, which is for everybody, I help organisations to attract, recruit and keep neuro-divergent talent. So that's autistic, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, all sorts of lovely things that come under that umbrella. And sometimes that's by doing a workplace assessment to help them out physically in their work environment. Sometimes it's helping them put together a reasonable adjustments list or completely rewriting their recruitment process. It depends what they need, what they want.
Okay, cool.
And then I can work with individuals as well, because often companies will say to individuals, you tell us what you want or what you need. Self-advocacy. And the individual who's brand new to the company says, but I'm brand new, I don't know what I can ask for. And I don't want to be special. That's not a good start.
No.
So I help the company help the individual, and I try to empower individuals with a list that they can say, well, I've got a list here. Are you up for me choosing things from this list? It's a slightly different conversation to here's a list of my demands.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's it. Not just for people with neurodivergency, but for anybody really coming into a company.
100%. There are no losers, because you'll have introverts, you'll have people who have perhaps caring responsibilities at home, or maybe they have insomnia, or their circadian rhythms don't match up to everybody else's. So even things like a slightly later start, why wouldn't you offer that to your entire workforce if that meant they were the most productive they could be when they're in working for you, whether that's at home or in the office or whatever.
I just love that whole idea. It's a whole other conversation about how to really engage with your staff, isn't it? So it's a well done.
Totally, yeah. And that makes me feel like that's why I get out of bed in the morning, you know.
Yeah.
And speaking of getting out of bed in the morning, that's quite challenging for me because I have chronic insomnia and have done pretty much all my life. I was that child who could never go to bed when I was told to, because I was wide awake until 11, 12 at night, even as a child. And then that got worse through puberty. So I was up till 2 or 3 in the morning. And now I'm usually up till 3 in the morning every night because my body is not ready to go to sleep unless I am exhausted. And
which is not a fun place.
20 hours straight.
So when you're going to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, what time does that mean that you're actually waking then?
Well, I try not to book in morning meetings because I know mornings aren't my best time of day. So I probably get up about 11, something like that. So when you look at it, if I'm going to bed at 3 or 4 and getting up 11, that's potentially 7 hours sleep. I mean, there's
That's
loads of
not
people
too
going,
bad.
7 hours is loads. I only get 6 hours every night. Yeah, so it's not a sob story. It's just that's when I'm at my best. So if ever I did have to go back to a conventional job, I'd find it really tricky if they're not up for, let's do an 11 a.m. start or a lunchtime start or
Yeah.
something.
That's really interesting that you brought that up, and because we tend to think, because that's what we're told, we go to bed at whatever time it is, preferably, if that's okay. I did a bit of stuff on the Ayurvedic network, the plan. Or you've stopped. Oh, you stopped then. So I've done some work on the Ayurvedic plan with regarding to the peak times, and the peak times. Have you stopped again? Are you back?
I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm back. Sorry to give you editing to do.
Okay. I love it. Right, we'll start again. So I've done some work on the Ayurvedic clock, as it were, which tells you that between, I think it's 6 and 10 is the time for bedtime. And that's sort of, I guess, how we're brought up certainly in this country, isn't it? So it's really interesting. So how long did it take you to make peace with the fact that actually you're just a bit different to whatever the normal is?
It's quite recent. I have spent 40 odd years trying to conform. Because let's face it, I
Oh,
can't rock up to school at 11 a.m., can I?
no.
My getting up time was 6:45 a.m. for school for 7 years.
Wow.
And we used to do Saturday morning school, so it was 6 days a week as well.
Goodness. You lucky girl. You lucky girl.
Yay! So that was very, very challenging. I think I spent the whole of my teenage years having about 3 hours sleep a night. I'm not quite sure how I survived it, to be honest.
Wow.
But on a Sunday, my dad would have to drag me out of bed at 1 p.m. for lunch because I was like,
Oh my
out for the
goodness.
count.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting how you say that? Because I know, and I'm not a researcher or, knowing of stuff, that actually when we turn into teenagers, our rhythm changes, and they do like to stay up later, sleep in later. That's a known fact because I found it, I know it. Yeah, our school system has never changed, has it?
Nope, it still forces children to start at 8 or 9 in the morning when they really aren't at their best. And then they wonder why getting good grades is challenging. Because you still might be lucky and get a few people who are larks, we'll
Yes,
call them,
yeah.
jumping out of bed in the morning, or maybe they're doing I don't know what they call it, the miracle morning.
Oh
That
yes,
sort of stuff.
yeah.
Oh, I've done 500 press ups and
Yes, a bit
walked
of
around the block
priming.
times. I
Yeah.
went and got a newspaper and I've done 5 pages of my journal and I haven't even had a cup of coffee yet. And I'm like, good for you. I went to bed half an hour ago.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So very interesting. So your challenges were around chronic insomnia. You've also told me a few of the bits. I know there's a little bit more going on there. So do you want to tell us a little bit more? What are the things you're working through? You found the gift in you're
Yeah, I mean, so that the fatigue, the brain fatigue from my neurodiversity has an impact on my life that I didn't fully appreciate until quite recently. If you imagine I gave you a script every day when you got up and said, "Here's your script. You've got to learn it and perform it. Off you go," and you diligently learn it for an hour and then deliver it. And then tomorrow you think, brilliant. Well, I got to know that script really well, so I'll get better and better at this. And I go, can I have that script back? Thanks. Here's your new script every day. That's quite stressful to learn a brand new script every single day. Only it's worse than that because no one actually gives you a script. You don't know what's coming up. You can't kind of rehearse things in advance. You're literally making it up as you go along. And I know everyone's going to think, well, we're all doing that. But the difference is, if I think I've seen a scenario play out and I think, okay, that's the way you behave in that given circumstance, then I will replicate that when I see that happening again. But what I can't do is take into consideration all the other nuances that might be part of that new version of that scenario. So I won't be able to adjust my mimicked response, which may not be appropriate for a number of reasons that are completely not in my sight.
Yeah.
You know, I just can't, I have no idea they're there. And so then I'll put my foot squarely in my mouth. People will get cross, angry, whatever, not want to be around me. And then that's very tiring, because now I'm going away analysing, what did I say wrong? How could I have done that better? Because you rarely get any decent feedback on what actually happened.
Yes. Well, this is it.
What could you have done? You know.
What?
So that can be really mentally tiring, because you end up rehearsing what to say, second guessing yourself all the time, analysing what you did say, on top of just doing.
Yeah.
Every day. So
right.
that weighs you down.
And can I just say, because I've known you now for a number of years, and you hide it very well, is what I will say, because I only really know that you have these challenges because obviously you've been open about them and spoke about them. But I would never have looked at you or spoke to you and thought, I don't know, thought anything other than you're wider, pretty similar to myself, really. You're high energy, but that's that's quite cool. I'm pretty high energy myself, so we resonate from that point of view. But all the sort of the day-to-day interactions, I really had no idea.
Yeah, and the energy thing's an important thing to mention too. I'm glad you'd mentioned it, because I love energy exchange. When I'm with people I like to be around, I look forward to seeing them. I like small groups. I'm not really a big fan of big sort of networking groups and things like that. That's like, and I'm quite a chatty person, because a lot of that is trying to hide the fact that I'm terrified, and I'd rather be sitting in the corner staring at my phone. Thanks very much. Or even
Wow. Well, you do hide it very well. You've become very adept at that, I could say.
But then you kind of get this reputation for being really outgoing, really extrovert, really, oh, okay, get Sam in. She's life and soul of the party. And I'm like, really not. And as a consequence, I give a lot of energy, because it's almost like I've got it on full blast when I'm with other people. Not because I'm trying to like be the life and soul of the party or drown them out or anything, but I'm giving it everything so I can really be a good person in that moment. But when I go home, I crash. And if it's been an event that's a few hours long, it can take me 2 or 3 days to get past.
Oh, really?
Energy drain. Even though I might have had an exchange of energy and received some energy as well from, you know, really good people being around, not just, you know, mood hoovers.
Yeah, you know, yes, I do understand what you mean. But even, yeah, so even going to a Toastmasters meeting then?
Yeah, it takes me about an hour to come down, and so I'm kind of buzzing for an hour, and then after that hour I'm exhausted, and that can even be into the next day.
Wow. Well, yes. So how do you then manage that, manage your energies, I guess? Is it just developing a really deep self-awareness of what works for you? And
yeah, so even down to planning my calendar. So if I know I'm going to a conference, for example, I won't book anything in 2 days after the conference. And I don't really call it self-care. I'll just not book anything in, because I might feel like doing something.
Yes, but it's nice to have an option.
So let's not have extra pressure and commitment for something where I might find it really difficult to, you know, find that energy that I need to deliver well. Because I don't like doing a half-baked job, you know.
No, absolutely not.
Kind of an all or nothing kind of gal.
Yes, you said. Yeah, I would definitely agree to that. Yeah.
So yeah, it's about being more honest with myself about my energy levels, which has become easier the older I get, because it's much easier to say no.
Well, yes, she says say no, but I think the saying no thing, a lot of people that I talk to with chronic illnesses of any type, it's a lot of it boundary place, isn't it? A boundary of just saying to your nearest and dearest, actually, no, I don't want to be going to that party. It's nothing against the person whose party it is, it's just not what I want. It's going to give me more terror and worry and loss of energy than it is going to give me any joy. And then you're doing stuff to appease other people rather than
People
what's right for you.
pleaser. Oh, yeah. And it's not
Yeah.
even a please like me thing. It's a please don't be mean to me. Please just be neutral to me. Having had quite a lot of bullying at school, I didn't want to be invisible. I just wanted people just to acknowledge I existed, but not be mean.
Yeah. Oh.
I
Oh yeah. I
think
want
most
to
people
give
want
little
that.
Sam a big hug, because there's no need to be mean to Sam. She's an amazing lady who's got loads of talents and a big
I
heart.
wasn't always the way I am now. So it wasn't until I was sort of, I don't know, 35. So I'm 49 now, 14 years ago, where I had a bit of an epiphany. And that's when I discovered that I was neurodivergent. And I went on an NLP course. And it was 1 day a month for 10 months. So what that allowed you to do was, once you'd done your 1 day, you could apply what you'd learned until the next session, which I thought was a really great way of doing it. So you could implement things. And what it did was, it was quite confronting, because it really held up a mirror to what is my impact on other people. And that, well, whilst it's like, oh, do I really want to know? Yeah, I do really want to know, because people never tell me. They just avoid me. And I didn't realise that I'd picked up these traits, I don't know, whatever, habits from my parents, for example, who they could moan for England. They shout at the telly, I'm going to correct you. Yeah, old school, in their 80s, even bigotry and racism and stuff like that in there.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of rewiring to do, and I could understand, because I was actually getting that feedback. Right, that's why people don't go, oh, good, Sam's here. People go, oh, Sam's here. I get it now. I was dominating conversations. I wasn't letting other people have a go. I was steering it to a subject I wanted to talk about. Or, when people are having a conversation and you're talking and they're going, yeah, 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 yeah. And you go, you just want me to shut up. So you're not even listening. And I was like that because I'd learned that from my mum and dad. So there was a lot of, I'm not going to call it unlearning, rewiring, I think is the right way to put it, because I don't think you can unlearn anything. And it doesn't happen overnight. You've got to, so I did CBT on myself. That's effectively what I did.
Okay.
So if people aren't familiar with CBT, it's not computer-based training on this particular occasion. It's cognitive behavioral therapy. And so the reason why I thought that was the right approach was because I could take one thing and practice and practice and practice and practice until it was how I wanted it to be, and then try a new thing whilst still carrying on that new habit. So I was building.
Wow. So it's really quite a strategic plan. Yeah.
Yeah. I still use it now. I mean, I used to have road rage. I was like that angry driver. Gone.
Wow.
Gone completely.
Yeah.
I might have that first thought still, but there's like an invisible Sam inside my head going, stop.
You don't need to go there.
Reroute you to the positive. That driver might be having a really bad day. They might have had some really bad news. They could have kids fighting in the car behind them. It could be the first day of driving after an accident. There's so many reasons why that person might have just done a silly thing. So just give them the space to do the silly thing. Don't be an extra problem.
No, I agree with that totally. I'm pretty much on that mindset now. You just do not know what's going on in somebody else's world, where they slam the door in your face, or they whatever they do that you think is rude, or they don't say thank you to you when you've let them go past.
Yeah, they're probably just thinking something else. It's not that they're being rude to you or deciding not to say thank you. Yeah, it's just they're thinking of something else entirely. And I heard an interview with Michael Schumacher from before he had his accident, and the interviewer asked him, "What's it like driving on normal roads?" And obviously we're sort of thinking, oh my goodness, he must, drive like a loony. And he goes, oh, no, no, no. I am so chill when I drive because I can see things happening before even they know it's happening
Well,
because
gosh,
my
yes.
brain is tuned in to everything all the
Super
time.
speed, super speedy as
Super
well. So
speedy.
going at 30 miles an hour
Reaction.
instead of 300 or whatever
Yeah.
they go
So
at.
he can see a problem forming, so he hangs right back. So he's not part of the problem. It gives
Wow.
people space. And I
Mm.
was like, yes, that's what I'm doing. It's like validation that I kind of hit on a
Hit on
winning
the right
ticket
thing.
to
Yeah,
handle
well
it.
done.
So that was really cool that he said that.
So you said that you discovered when you were 35, 39 that you were
35.
neurodivergent. 35. So how did that come about?
Well, I hadn't really noticed up until that point that all the jobs that I had had after uni were working with men. Thought hadn't crossed my mind until we were talking about what jobs have you done before, and they went, why do you always work with men? What? I mean, there were women working there, but predominantly men, like large proportion of male workers. So working for the police, lots of men. British Gas, lots of men doing the fixing things.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's a stereotype, but at the time
But
that
yeah,
was
there was more men than women in those
there
companies.
were, yes. Hopefully that's evening up a little bit more now. We are talking 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 30 years ago.
Probably that long.
Big up.
Yeah.
And yeah, all sorts of places, even going into IT, again, stereotypically male-dominated
Mm-hmm.
environment. And yeah, that kind of sparked something in my mind. And I can't remember how we got up to it, but there was an ASPE test online. It was 50 questions, and it said if you score over 30 or something like that, then you might be an ASPE. And I was like, that's
And an
brilliant. What's
Aspie?
an ASPE?
Yeah. Thank you.
So an ASPE is a colloquial term for someone who might have Asperger's. Now, Asperger's, Hans Asperger was this German chappie or Austrian or whoever he was, and he wrote some papers about basically kids with type 1 autism. So autism is categorized now by 3 different types, and it's to do with the level of support that somebody might need.
Right.
So
Okay.
you might imagine, when people think about Rain Man and
Yeah.
autism, yeah, that would be a type 3. Someone who requires probably some kind of residential care, will probably never work, is unlikely to have a significant relationship romantically. That sort of level might be
Mm-hmm.
non-verbal, probably has other comorbidities that are very challenging for them.
Mm-hmm.
Type 1 would be people like myself
Mm-hmm.
who have lower support needs. And people used to say high functioning and low functioning, but that's quite offensive because, as you know, I might appear to be doing just peachy thanks, but actually I'm exhausted. So
Yeah.
actually I've got quite high support needs. It's just I'm taking care of them.
Yes. Yes. So again, it's that awareness piece, isn't it? And recognizing that actually you can do things to make you feel more. I don't want to say conforming, but to
It is
enable
though.
you to swim in the sea with all the other people that are swimming in the sea.
The world is
Yeah.
made for neurotypical people, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the world says you have to meet us over here. It doesn't say we'll meet you there or we'll meet you in
No.
the middle. It says you're the weird one. You've got to do all the changing and adapting. It's so ironic because it's so hard for
Yeah.
people with a neurodivergent mind to make changes because we're not choosing to behave this way. We're wired that way. It's quite big. And I scored 42
Ooh.
out of 50. In fact, I scored more than the guys did. So that was cool. And that started me thinking, maybe there's something in this. I know that was sort of a fun test, but it wasn't like a Cosmo test. It was fairly serious. So I did a lot more research on it. And that's when I definitely had that dawning moment of, I'm definitely autistic. I think I have ADHD. I know I've got pathological demand avoidance. I know I have sensory processing disorder and dyslexia and dyspraxia because I've read through all of the criteria, not just in a here's 5 symptoms,
Yeah.
proper papers describing them in depth. And I'm like, yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Those things are me. Absolutely.
Wow.
Daily, not just sometimes. And that's the thing, people go, oh, everyone's on a spectrum. I'm like, so there are some characteristics that other people will go, oh yeah, I do that. And I'm like,
Yes.
that's great. Yeah. But I do 200 of these things all the time in the same way. And sometimes they all come on the same day. And is it any wonder then I've got no bandwidth? So I might go into a meltdown or a shutdown or just withdraw completely because I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I mean, when a neurotypical person gets overwhelmed and bad things have happened, they have a nervous breakdown and they take time off from work. And people will say, oh, that's poor so and so taking time off work, nervous breakdown, really bad. I have about 5 of those a day. I don't get time off work.
No.
But because they happen more frequently, it's seen somehow as less bad.
Dramatic. Well, I suppose less dramatic. And I don't know what was, and forgive me if I'm sounding like I haven't got a clue, but it feels like almost like because it's happened to you more regularly, you then get more used to it and it becomes more of your norm. So it's a bit like, in the UK, we're not really catering for hot weather, but as things change, then we get more, more buildings. So then, and maybe, because I don't know about you, you're obviously dealing with companies and people that have, similar issues. Do you think it feels like it's more prevalent? Is it just because people are talking about it more? Or
yes.
Do you think actually there's suddenly over the last, I don't know, 100 years, these things have...
I don't believe there is an increase caused by anything.
No.
Autism and ADHD have been around for a lot longer than anything
We didn't have labels.
No, there are so many scientists, for example, who I know we can't really assess them because they're not here, but we have
showed
some
tendencies.
very detailed reports about their behaviours, their hyperfocus, how short they were with people, how black and white they were about things, how dedicated they were. I mean, even Thomas Edison, to fail 10,000 times and keep going. That's what you call focus. Regardless of whether he was the first guy to do it, he was the guy who took it to market. So he's the guy who gets the credit. That's just the way the world worked, as miserable as that is for the others. But even Tesla, people talk about some of his ideas being barking mad. And yet, some of his ideas we're using now.
Yeah.
People are going, oh, wow, this is great. And I'm like, yeah, Tesla thought of this 100 years ago.
Yeah, I think, and as you're speaking there, it just seems crazy, doesn't it? Because I don't know if you've heard my speech about imagine if there was no weird, that whole idea about our education system really embracing the weirdness, because we've all got them, whether we're on the spectrum or off the spectrum, yet we're all shoved into a box of this is your timings that you were going to go to school, this is what you're going to learn, and yeah, it doesn't, I don't think it really helps.
We're still running the model to create good little worker bees that go to factories and do as they're told, but that's the 1950s model of school. We don't need to do that anymore. We need to create entrepreneurs and free thinkers, people who use their initiative, because at the moment there's this real divide. When I deliver youth leadership into school, they're still doing the sit down, shut up and do as you're told model. And yet, as soon as they go out of school, into uni and into work, they're asked to stand up, speak up and use their initiative. And the kids are going, what's that? Sorry, I don't know how to do that. They can't even pick a topic. When I say speak about something, what do you want us to talk about? What are you interested in? I don't know. What are you good at? Oh, I'm not good at anything. And I'm like, really? Because they've got 8 A stars and they got a D in history, so they're really, really bad at history, and that's all that matters. And until we change the way that we educate, we're not going to change the later stuff. It's got to start when they're young.
Yes, I totally agree with that. But then I think, that's It's a whole nother campaign, and I think that needs
Oh,
to
it
be.
is. It's a
Yeah,
a mountain to climb for
it
sure.
is a mountain to climb, but hopefully more people are having conversations like this and recognizing that actually there's a better, more fun, more productive way of creating people that we need in this massively changing world, isn't it? It's
Absolutely. I think it's a small step. One small step could be that conventional schools start introducing more Montessori style delivery. So it's more hands-on. So for instance, we might say, okay, hello class, we're going to talk about this today. And the class goes, what do you mean we're going to talk about a water bottle, miss? Well, where does glass come from? How's it made? What country was it made in? Why is it green? What happens to this glass when you've finished using it? How can we reuse it? Do we wash it out and start again, or do we have to smash it to pieces and turn it back into sand? What exactly happens? So the label, what's ink? Where does that come from?
ooh,
How's that printed?
I'm liking the way you're teaching this, Warner.
Exactly. Wouldn't you
Beautiful,
be
yeah.
engaged? Wouldn't you be like, ah, it's amazing, miss? And then I might hold it and go, what else could we talk about? And the kids would be like, the cap, miss, the cap's
Yeah.
made of metal, miss. What kind of metal is it? You know, or the water inside it. We've missed the water. You know, how did that get in there? How come it's carbonated, or it was originally? You know, how would you do that and put the cap back on? You know, you could
But
just
no,
explore.
I just, yeah, I love the way that you're doing that, because because I was thinking in this, when we've got the internet, when we don't need our memory quite as much as we used to need our memory, because it's all there. We just ask Siri or Alexa, whoever it is, that come up with, whatever questions. It's more the quality of the questions. So
Mm,
if we can get our children, or get all of us really, to be questioning
yes, critical
exactly that
thinking.
within your one bottle. How many questions have you got in one item?
And where a lot of kids are like, you know, what do you want to do later when you leave school? Oh, I don't know. Whereas if I've inspired you by this, you might want to go into manufacturing. You might want to go into cooking,
Design,
maybe design.
yeah,
You might decide
marketing,
you want to own a tin farm or something.
yes, or supply chain, or
Yeah,
yes,
create
there's
a new drink.
yeah, there's so many things involved, like you say, in that one bottle. So many different organizations and so many different people have been involved to actually create that, and then to get it to into your hand and
Yep.
pay. I presume you didn't pay that much money for a bottle of water, so within a certain price range that allowed you to as a consumer to buy it. Yeah, fascinating.
Isn't
And
it?
yeah, it's not like
And then
that.
send them out to play because their brains will carry on thinking about that bottle
Yeah, so then
just for
they
the
can
next
like research
hour.
on the internet, come out with, oh, this is how you make glass, this is how you do this, come back and,
Exactly.
well, I'm
Or
excited about this class already.
yeah, or if they're like 12, they'll come back and say, "Hey, miss, I started a business in the break. I've started an Etsy business selling recycled bottles." I guess what's going to happen in the future.
Well, hopefully, because I know my son is learning business studies, but at no way has he ever had any practice. They don't do any sort of. They used to do the young enterprise thing when we were at school, when if you were interested, you could go and see how much money you could make in a small little project, and they're not even doing anything like that. So it's all very theory based on business, I guess. That's taken us up to here, but not necessarily going to take us moving forward. So
Dry
yeah,
as dust. And we're desperate for innovation.
we are desperate for innovation, and it sounds like you're the lady, or one of them, to be moving that forward.
Well,
So
it's one of the things, you know, you were talking about the gift right at the beginning. What is the gift? But without kind of creating the myth of neurodivergent people as being some kind of hero or super people or whatever. They're just people, and they have strengths and they have challenges like everybody else does. But there's definitely something to be said for businesses often in a team will recruit people like the people you've already got. You
I
know,
have
how
not
many
heard
times have
that
people
yet.
heard, sorry, I can't give you the job. I don't think it's a good fit. That's a classic. So you want a clone? Gee, I'm sorry. I haven't got a beard, you know.
Well, yeah, a bit like that, whereas actually it should be totally the opposite. So
Diversity of thought is what people should be craving and
yeah,
seeking, because that's what grows your business. Because then you
yeah.
have got people asking tricky questions like, why do you do it like that? You could save 30 grand if you did it like this. Or why, if you're selling this product, why wouldn't you sell this? You know, it's that outside of the box, different thinker that can take a business from doing okay to brilliant. But
So,
again,
and I don't know about you, but whenever I've worked in corporate in my past, obviously,
mm,
as a I sort of had ideas like that as well, because you come in as a new, fresh person with, and I'm sure I'm not alone. We've always done it like that.
yeah,
No, we've always done. Oh, no, that won't work. We tried that before,
yeah, lots
and
of that.
yeah, lots of
And
that. And
people
in the
senior
end,
to
you just
me,
like,
yeah, people senior to me taking credit for my ideas and then telling me later on in the year, well, you know, if you'd done any over and above your job, and I'm like, so these 5 ideas that have made loads of money mean nothing. Oh, but they weren't your ideas. No, they were. They really were. Oh, you should have said what? So I'm supposed to call out the senior person and go,
yeah,
actually, that was my idea. Yeah, that makes me look really good in corporate, doesn't it?
yeah,
And also you get a reputation for being a maverick, for the difficult person in the room, because you're asking a question that isn't towing the line.
yes, yes. I
And
think
they
I had a
don't
bit of
like,
that as
they
well.
say they want it, but they don't.
No. So the people that you're working, as you said, you're working with organisations now, and I'm assuming that if somebody's going to hire you, they are a little bit more forward thinking,
Yeah,
shall we say, than maybe some of the experiences we've had in the past. So is that what you've,
sure.
that's, is that your ideal
Yeah.
client, really?
Yeah, I was working for one recently, Pebble Pad, they're called, and their clients are universities predominantly, and the students obviously that use the universities. And I was so chuffed that they got in touch with me and asked me to come over and deliver a couple of sessions and work with them on pulling together a statement and their reasonable adjustments list, because they were 70% on the way already. It's
Oh,
just they
wow.
hadn't kind of put anything down like officially. And you can always tell because the air, the energy in the room is relaxed. There's not kind of that weird fearful tension that you can
Yeah.
sense when you walk into a room. And their attrition is really low. When people go to work there, they tend to stay, and that speaks volumes
Yeah.
about the company.
Of course it is. Of course it does. Yeah.
It really does.
And it must
So
save them so much
yeah,
money as well, because the
oh,
whole
it does.
the recruitment and onboarding process must cost a fortune.
It does. It can cost an average about £6,000 per person, depending on
Right.
how they've been
Wow.
onboarded, and that's a lot of money. You know, if you even if you're just talking 10 people in a year, that's £60,000 you've spent on
Yeah.
recruiting. You really don't want to lose that person.
No.
And the irony is, the reasonable adjustments, accommodations, and adaptations usually cost nothing.
Yeah. Just to really, it's more of a mindset shift and
Yeah,
a recognition that actually not everybody's wired at the same. You know,
yeah.
that taking judgment off the table and
Uh-huh.
just allowing people to be at their best. I know you'd think that would be easy, wouldn't you?
100%, yeah. We ask people how you like your coffee when you start, but we don't say how do you like to communicate.
No,
So
no.
if someone
I was
hates
thinking, I've heard
emails,
that before, but that was from you, Sam.
yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
If somebody
Yeah.
hates emails, like if you hated emails and I kept emailing you, what would be the point of me doing that and then
Yeah.
getting cross about the fact you don't answer your emails? If you had told me, I'm not a fan of emails, but you can send me a text and point me to one if you need me to do something specific, and it needs to be an email. Maybe it's got attachments or something.
Yeah.
Then I know how to interact with you then. So I can send you an email, but I'll text you and say, hey, Gina, I've sent you an email, no rush. Can you look at that and answer me by the end
Yeah.
of the week? Now you've got a handle on that. I don't have to just sort of resist my emails. There's one in there I know I need to look for. And hopefully I've done a nice clear subject line for you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. There's it just seems so obvious when we're sitting here talking about it now as two ex-corporates that have now like realized that our place isn't maybe in this world of conformity and stuff. But it's lovely the fact that you're meeting organizations that are looking to change that and looking for other ways of thinking. Are the organizations quite small, or have you got some quite big ones as well?
Well, that one's, I think, between 80 and 100, so sort of
Right,
small to
small to
medium
medium, yeah.
enterprise. I'm talking to one at the moment. I can't tell you who it is yet.
Fair enough.
Contract not signed.
Yeah.
Talking to a large UK
Oh,
organisation at the
nice.
moment, which is really exciting because they're a service industry. So they want training to help with other staff, so they know how to interact with staff, and they also
Hmm.
want to know how to interact with customers that might be neurodivergent, so that they've got both bases
Yeah.
covered, which is really great that they're being so on it that they're like, we need to do something.
Yeah.
So that's
And
really
as we've already established, actually, it doesn't, although that's the angle that you're sort of going in at, actually what you're doing helps anybody, whether they've got a label or not label, or whether they're, yeah, whatever.
totally, totally.
Everybody's an individual, aren't they? Everybody's got
Most,
their own.
yeah, most people know somebody who's neurodivergent in some way.
Hmm.
And a lot of people don't feel comfortable saying, so tell me about your difference. Tell me
Yeah.
what it's like for you. Give me an insight so I can work with you, even if you're not at work. But you know, we
Yeah.
can say things and do things together that makes both of our lives easier because we have a deeper understanding. You know, like if you say to me, I hate going to parties, I hate surprises, I'm never going to throw you a surprise party. And yet I see neurotypical people doing it to neurodivergent people all the time. Oh, you should have a party. That's what you have when you have a birthday. But that person doesn't want a party or a surprise. Sometimes they don't even like gift giving. Can we just perhaps respect them?
Yeah. And I think, but even just having those sort of conversations, I think this is probably, I don't know, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but I think probably we don't really have those sort of conversations, not when we go into start a new job, not even sometimes when we start a new relationship, an intimate relationship. How many relationships are built on expectations that are from both sides of both people that haven't been communicated. And I know I know that was true for me. So I'm sure I'm not alone.
And some of it is down to self-awareness or lack of. So if you're not self-aware, it's really hard for you to articulate, this is what the truth is for me.
Yes.
Because most people go, oh, I don't know, or
Yeah.
oh, it doesn't matter, or I don't, it's just fine, just do what you like. But that's not true.
No, that's it. And actually, if you could have your needs met, or if not met, at least understood,
yeah,
I think that we'd all be happier.
absolutely. And I want our neurotypical friends to tell me too. I'm not just saying that neurodivergent people should be saying, this is what I need, this is what I need. We should all be communicating it to each other. So, when someone says to me, I love emails, that's the way I handle my work.
Yeah.
Even though I don't like emails, if I want something from them or I want them to do something, I'll respect that that's the way they like to be communicated with, and I'll send them an email.
Yeah, so it's simple,
Not hard.
Simple. So going back, because we're coming up to the sort of end of our conversation, which is it's just been a fantastic conversation. We're in there, we're changing the whole world, I think, starting with the education system. But yeah, that's so with regarding to the gift in the illness, would you call neurodivergency an illness?
No, I wouldn't. Although they do classify ADHD as mental health, or something that can be treated with medication, which is true for some people, not all. It is still a hard wiring. So even though they might be able to take some medication that might help them to be a better version of themselves, because they're getting the dopamine and serotonin that they need because they can't generate it themselves. What's actually true is that if you take the medication away, nothing has changed, because it's not actually curing you or anything like that.
It's just like a band-aid, really.
Yeah, but if it helps people to function and do a job and run a family and things like that, brilliant. There's no problem at all with people taking any medication that they need to function as a human being, because we just want to function, don't we? We just want to be the best we can be. So there should be no stigma whatsoever. I know there is still in some places, but whether somebody has to take an antidepressant or an antipsychotic or some other kind of medication that helps to balance them and help them to just function, like I say, pay your bills, go to work, do your, relationships, that's brilliant. I'm really fortunate that I have not gone down that route, or I have not needed to go down that
Mhm.
route. I think that might change in the future, don't know.
Yeah.
But I think I'm handling it right. So I think my gift is that whilst I have a neurodivergent mind, my gift is that I've been able to kind of work with it and find ways of coping and dealing and masking and all of those
Yeah.
things. But I'm still a fantastic problem solver, ideas generator. That's where my strengths lie. My challenges are I get bored really easily. So I am like the ADHD. Oh, squirrel, shiny thing. I am that person. I'll start
Might be
something,
me
no
a bit as
problem.
well. Maybe I need to do
Yeah.
that test.
There are people out there who are like, no, we need to finish this off properly and then do like check
Yeah,
everything's
completed
scrolled off,
finishes they
squared off
used to be called
properly.
in the bell bins thing, didn't they?
That's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
one. Complete to finish is not me.
Not me either.
But by understanding that about myself, if I'm doing a project and I know that I'm going to struggle to finish it off, that might be a time that I might want to employ a VA or a virtual assistant or whatever who can help to box that away for me whilst I start the new shiny thing.
Well, that's going back to what you were saying with regarding to the teams, and having, which where bell bins came from, wasn't it? With the team, the team things of actually getting people in your team that so you've got your starters, you've got your finishers, you've got the people that are into detail, you've got the people that are happy to clear up and just do this repetitive thing again and again and again. So it's working with.
Can't have a room full of starters
No,
because nothing will ever get finished.
nothing will ever get finished. No, it's and just recognizing that when we talk about when you go into the workplace of being a team player, whatever that is, but at no point, certainly in any of my starting jobs, has anybody ever, maybe when I learned about bell bins when I was first going into my training and we were in a new training department and full of trainers, so we did a bit of that, but other than that, no, nobody's had those conversations at all. Not even an
No,
interview. Interesting, isn't it?
it is. It is. I remember doing Myers-Briggs once,
Mm,
which was
yes.
really interesting. MBTI might be known by that, but for other people, the problem with Myers-Briggs is I could take it 3 days in a row and get 3 different outcomes because I'm so close to the middle, because I'm so good at adapting to the
Yes.
scenario that I'm in because of the masking and the mimicking and all that. I It's like I've lost a sense of my identity, and I think a lot of autistic people especially will identify with that sense of I'm always pretending to be someone else because that's what
Oh,
everyone wants me to be. So I don't actually know who I am if I was just
wow.
allowed to be me.
Yeah. That's really. Oh, that's yeah. And it's such a shame that actually we've through society, I guess, we've sort of bred the individuality. It goes back to that statement. Imagine in the world if there was no weird. If
Yeah.
somebody came up with something that felt weird, it'd be like, oh, how exciting. I've never thought of it that way before.
And I do get it. It's that caveman thing again. So I say again, I haven't mentioned it in this podcast, but I mention it to people a lot because it's a useful way of understanding it. When we used to live in a clan in a cave, it was really important that we didn't get ousted from the cave because we wouldn't have access to food, shelter, and warmth. So we'd probably die of hunger or exposure. So there was a real need for us to be accepted, to comply, to
Yeah.
fit in. But we're not in caves anymore. But our limbic brain hasn't evolved much further from the cave. So it's still in full on protection mode. So that's why public speaking is so hard for people, because we're worried people will go, you're a fraud, you're a liar, get out, we're never going to speak to you again. Oh no, I'm going to die of exposure. No, okay. But that's why it's happening. And that's why people stand sort of crossed arms and stuff like that. They're trying to protect themselves, protect all their soft bits. And that's just your limbic brain trying to protect you. And that's the same for the other stuff. Your brain, our brain, is not evolved enough yet to go, oh, we don't need to do that now. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. We can actually embrace difference, because weird isn't a threat.
No.
We don't have to ostracize that person, because that's what's still happening. You know, at school, if there's a weird kid, the weird kid gets bullied instead of embraced.
Well, I think what I've learned from my kids, they'll always find something to pick on. So it doesn't matter what colour, shape, or there'll be something that they'll find to sort of pick out. And if that's something, I guess, that you're sensitive about, then it then can be, it can be turned quite nasty, can't it? And if that's when
And yet
bullying
we
really
watch all
comes
these
in.
films where there's like the weird kid, and we're identifying with the weird kid, and we want the weird kid to triumph. And I'm like, but that's not how you behave in real life. I don't get it.
No.
But yeah, the fear and the limbic brain has got a lot to answer for, I can tell you.
Oh. Do you think that might be evolving?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I really do, because a lot of people in my neurodivergent community don't feel that same desire, fear of being alone or having to be accepted. Some people feel that way because they've been told that's what you should be feeling, that all humans need to be together and doing things all the time and being social, when actually there are many people who would absolutely love to be in an office with a door shut and left alone all day to work. That's like heaven. That's why working from home has been so good for people.
Yeah.
I don't need other people in the room to work. In fact, it's a massive distraction.
Yeah, that's probably the same with me as well. Actually, it's been an interesting conversation. We've come to the end of our hour, and I always like to finish with a bit of an exercise or a little bit of mindfulness or meditation or something. And you said you had something that might be helpful for people with overactive minds, shall we say?
Yes, I do. It's called guided imagery for mental control, but that sounds a bit like I'm going to control you. But it's not at all. It's so I frequently will have intrusive thoughts, sometimes good, sometimes not so good. Sometimes I have what I call busy brain, usually at night time when I would quite like to go to sleep at some point. My brain will go, oh, there's an email and there's things you need to do. And oh, here's an idea. And why don't you write that script you want to do now? Go away. So it's those moments that I use this to help push out all the clutter. To give my brain space.
Yeah.
Actually, I am quite tired. So this might help other people when they're having a busy brain.
Yeah, sounds good. Right.
Okay, settle in then.
I'm settled.
Take a slow, deep inhale. And exhale. As you begin awareness of your breath, start to notice what thoughts are going through your mind. What are you thinking about? But don't get caught up in those thoughts. Just begin to notice them as they travel across your mind. Let them go as they pass. Watch them come and go. Continue to breathe deeply, nice and slow. I'm going to describe some settings, and I'm going to ask you to allow your mind to jump immediately to the settings I describe. Let your mind be free to travel and do not become attached to any one setting or image. You're a traveller, jumping from place to place in your mind. Now we will begin. An ocean, a deep blue ocean. a beach with white sand. A seagull flying over the sand. Pelicans are chasing the current over the waves. The waves crash onto the beach with the white sand. The desert is sandy too. There's cactus in the desert. There's a blue sky, a blue cloudless sky. In the distance you can hear birds singing. And now there's a walled garden with lush green grass. And you can feel a cool breeze. Oh, there's a storm coming. There's the storm clouds and a crack of thunder. The dark sky is illuminated by lightning. But it's okay. It's moving away. And now you can see a long dirt road stretching towards the horizon and a grove of olive trees. There's a farmer and a woman pulling water from a well. Happy children playing in the distance, and a tall tree stretching up to the sky, that beautiful blue sky. The sun is warm on your face. You can see mountains in the distance, topped with snow, and just make out a farmhouse. At the farmhouse is a stable, and there are horses inside. Now the sun is setting. A flock of birds pass in the sky, and the colours fade as we hear the hoot of an owl. You're sipping a cold glass of lemonade. You move indoors to sit next to your lovely, warm fireplace. There's a grey cat curled up on a small rug and an old woman sipping tea. Tomorrow she'll go into her garden and tend her roses. There'll be a robin with a worm in its beak. She can hear the church bells from the tall spire. She can see white puffy clouds, and there's a white dove, and inside the church is a burning candle with a beautiful flickering flame. That lovely burning candle. Take another slow, deep inhale and a long, complete exhale. And hopefully you're ready for bed.
Oh, it's interesting because when I have listened to guided visualizations a bit like that one, I sort of follow it and then I zone off. Then I follow it and then I zone off. So but you're right, it does help to calm the thoughts because you're focused, aren't you? Yeah.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's just the fact you're listening to somebody talking about something that's not terribly interesting.
Yeah.
Or of any importance. Because when I go to sleep at night, I have Audible on and I run the same book over and over again, and I've reduced the speed down to half. So the slowness of the voice slows down my brain, which helps just slow everything down.
Wow, well that's a great technique. So thank you for sharing that one, and thank you for sharing. So so let us know, people, if you try that one, and that's a helpful thing. And thank you for guiding us through that visualization. And you talked about your community. So do you have a community? Can we direct people to your place?
Well,
Where's the best place?
I don't have a tribe or anything like that, but just hopping onto my website, that all the information's there about all the sorts of things that I do. You'll be able to get to my LinkedIn from there too, if you're interested to do that, and can link with me there. And it's called www. It's getyourmessageacross.com, but with hyphens in between. So
Right.
get hyphen your hyphen message hyphen across.com, which is a bit of a mouthful, but it's much easier to read.
Excellent. Well, I will definitely put that link in the intro section of this interview. So thank you very much. And just before we go, I just wonder if you could speak to your younger self, maybe before you had that realization of your new, the way your brain was wired up a little bit differently maybe than you thought. What would be your advice to maybe 20-year-old Sam?
I would say nobody knows what they're doing, they just look like they do. So you just keep going because everyone else is just making it up as they go along. And don't make any assumptions, kind of linked to that a bit, but don't make any assumptions, ask. And then you'll get into less trouble.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's always an amazing interaction with you, but it's been an amazing conversation. I've scribbled some notes here, so I've got some things to write in the bio thing. But yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much for joining me.
So having